there it goes. That's our first intro. That's so cool. Okay. Anyway, hey, I'm Duane. I work at Merced County Office of Education. And who are you?
And I'm Cole, and I work at the Kern County Superintendent of Schools office.
And this is our inaugural podcast episode of Math on the Rocks. Now I'm gonna spring this on you, Cole, because you didn't know I was gonna do this. What is Math on the Rocks? What are we gonna be doing here?
I mean, I think that, Duane, we're just going to be talking about kind of our experiences as educators, kind of growing up in the system and talking about our work working with educators, and all of the rocky topics that are out there in the math education world today. I can't wait to talk about, multiplication and fluency with you, and talk about some new eighth grade for algebra for all topics that are flying around in my area. I know we have lots of opinions and lots of thoughts about some of this, and I just can't wait to unpack that with you. We've done this a number of times out and about, and those conversations always end with me coming back and thinking, man, how can I act on that? And so just excited to have this time and to share with others.
So who's the audience? Who's going to be wanting to listen to us as we do this?
Oh, I think this would be great for pre-service teachers, in the classroom teachers, coaches, leaders, policymakers. There's going to be a lot of good stuff coming out of this, just based on, I know, your wealth of experience in all this world as well.
Give me a break. What grade levels? If you're an in-service, a practicing teacher, what grade levels would this be for?
I think that we're going to be general enough that this is going to apply to everyone. I mean, we have TK and early ed coming into the mix, and with universal UPK. And so I think that really we're going to be doing our best to hit all of those along the way. So this goes from UPK through high school.
I love it. And I love the fact that it's Math on the Rocks, because it just means a lot of stuff. It's going to be lighthearted, except when we're recording at the office like me. It's going to be lighthearted, maybe some adult beverages. But then Math on the Rocks is also just talking about, hey, that math is sometimes kind of rocky. And sometimes math itself is the rockiness. And sometimes how we treat math is what's the rockiness. And we just need to talk about it. And that's what we're going to do. And maybe instead of just talking about it, you and I can start proposing some solutions as well to the rockiness that we're experiencing. But so where are you from?
So from Bakersfield, California.
All right. And can are you allowed to say where you work from?
Oh, yeah. I work for the Kern County Office of Education.
Okay. So you are Kern County. I'm Merced County. We're the Central Valley. So technically, we're not doing this for Kern County or Merced County. Who are we really kind of doing this podcast for?
So really, this is for the California Math Council, the Central section. We are really trying to uplift our Central Valley, Central area, and supporting the work of our amazing educators, but really open to all of our California educators through this process.
Yeah, the internet goes everywhere, so anybody's allowed to listen. But yeah, the thing I noticed, I'm a transplant. I used to live 50 years in the San Francisco Bay Area. And when I got this job 6-7 years ago, I inherited a job where the Central Valley, I came to learn that the Central Valley was a flyover place. It wasn't respected from a math point of view. It's kind of like nothing good comes from the Central Valley. Everything was all about the North and the South. And so I love working with you, elevating the status of the Central Valley, California, because we have some amazing mathematicians in the Central Valley. I'm sure we're going to talk about them on our podcast. We do some amazing math in the Central Valley. And so we need to brag about that. And that's what I'm hoping this podcast is also doing. It's like letting everybody know, shining a light on the amazing math community that is the Central Valley. And so I love it. Okay, so the other reason we're doing this podcast is not only to shine a light on the amazing stuff that goes on in the Central Valley, but we're also doing some webinar stuff. So what's the purpose of this podcast with respect to the webinar?
Yeah, so we kind of as a CMC state and CMC Central really have been thinking long and hard about, as an organization, as a section, how can we make sure that we're not a one-stop shop, come to our conference and kind of see you next year kind of organization? And so we've really been thinking and being thoughtful about how can we increase our network and our connection with members and other California educators throughout the year. And so in that, we've launched or will be launching on March 21st a
Woo!
virtual learning webinar series that is open and free to all teachers. Whether you live in California or not, you have the same access to the Zoom link to join us. And so we will be launching March 21st. It'll be the third Thursday of every month from 4 to 5 p.m. And we're calling this the Inspiring Math Minds Virtual Learning Series. And so we're super excited about that. We already have our first 4 speakers lined up for this. We have Fawn Nguyen joining us in March, Dan Meyer joining us in April, Ed Campos is coming in May, and we have Joe Bowler joining us in June. And so we're super excited about all of that, and hope to see you there and continue learning with us.
You know what's amazing to me is, okay, so you mentioned we may have had some weird audio stuff going on. I just noticed that as I brought in the browser. Anyway, you mentioned, okay, March 21st, Fawn Nguyen. She's from California.
Yep.
She lives in California. Then you mentioned Dan Meyer. He's, of course, California. Then you mentioned Ed Campos. He's, of course, California. And then the 4th one was June 20th. Was that Joe Bowler?
And that was Joe Bowler, yeah.
All right. Well, she's not from California, but she's living in California, and she is instrumental in the California math community. So we got 4 people from California representing our webinars, and so we got to support them. So that's a good reason for this podcast, is to support those wonderful people.
Yeah,
I love it.
And I'd also recommend to anybody who's listening out there, if you have recommendations or considerations that we should be making for folks to get into this virtual learning series, to please let us know. Get in contact with us somehow.
Yeah, somehow.
We're always looking for some great names, so let us know who we should be inviting.
Well, somehow, we didn't think about that part. So Habecker at mcoe.org, your CEO, cosampson at kern.org. People will have to pause and rewind if they want to hear those again, because we didn't think about that part.
Yeah.
I love it.
This morning, Duane.
Pardon me?
Keeping you on your toes this morning.
Yeah. We're working on it here. Okay, so the other thing that we need to talk about that this podcast is going to support is our work as Central Valley, as CMC Central Region. So what's coming up real soon right now?
Oh man, so on Friday, Saturday of this week, so March 8th and 9th, we have our CMC Central Symposium. And it's unleashing the power of student thinking. So I'm super excited about that. It's been more than a year in the making. Yeah. I remember that it was 2 weeks ago, a year ago, 2 weeks ago. I guess that makes sense in my mind somehow. Is when I started recruiting our first keynote speakers, and then here we are, just a few mere days away from launching it. I'm super excited about it.
So a little bit of history for people listening on the podcast. The North has always been an elite, amazing conference in Asilomar every year in December. The South has had, I think, one of the nation's best conferences, and I'm talking, it rivals the national conferences. The CMC South down in Palm Springs every November. And historically, the Central has been less than those. And you and I kind of started dreaming and saying, why are we buying into this story that the Central Valley has to be less? And so typically our little symposium has been about 100, 150 people max, and it roamed around. And so it was small, it roamed around. We never really knew where it was going to be. It didn't have a personality. And some of that was our own doing. And so you and I decided, why? So let's see, 2 years ago was the symposium was in Merced. We had about 130 people or so. And that was kind of but that's when we decided, why is it only 130? So last year we decided, okay, we're going to make a home. And that home is Bakersfield. And we just said, okay, it's going to be every year in Bakersfield. It's always going to be around Pi Day. So now people listening to the podcast can start planning that into the future. What are you going to do next March close to Pi Day? Well, you're going to go to Bakersfield because you know exactly what's going to happen. You know exactly where it's going to be. And last year we decided let's bump it up. And what did we have last year?
Gosh, I think we were close to about 400 or so.
Oh yeah, because I was the registrar and we had a max. And every time we met, we reached the max, and I'm trying to close registration. You would call me and go, "Hey, I got another 20 people. Can we bring in another 20 people?" And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And I'm like, dude, we only bought so many sandwiches for these poor people. And this year, coming up Friday, March 8th, 2024, how many people?
We are up over 650 participants coming this year, plus 100 and so vendors. So we're super excited about that. We're going to have close to 750, 800 people there.
Because we're also doing a leadership symposium. Talk about that.
Yeah, so we have, for the first time, we're trying a pre-symposium aspect. Historically, we've been a teacher conference. So we've done a Friday night, Saturday conference. But last year we got some feedback saying it would really be great to create a space for leaders in the Central Valley to kind of come together as well. And so we are launching for the first time our pre-symposium. We have quite the lineup for that as well. We have Joe Bowler, Ma Bernadette Salgrinos, our current state board president, and Mike Flynn helping us lead that leadership pre-symposium. And that is sold out as well, with about 130 people coming just to the pre-symposium alone. So we're super excited about that.
I love this. Okay, so as we wrap this up, okay, so what's going on? What's going to be this podcast that we're setting the scenes for? Okay, so we are first, as a podcast, we're celebrating the Central Valley of California to say, hey, this is not a flyover place. This is a place with a heart and a soul that represents the heart and the soul of the state of California in terms of the math community. I love it. We're going to use this podcast to celebrate and advertise and talk about and debrief the webinar that we're going to be doing. We're going to be using this podcast to just talk about the math, the state of math in California and what's going on the rockiness that naturally entails. For some reason, math for some people is kind of like a religion, and it's got to be one way or the highway. And we're gonna kind of get into the gray areas there. And then really, here's my selfishness. I don't get enough coal in my life. And so this is going to be an opportunity for us to have to call each other and just spend 15 minutes on the phone doing a podcast. I don't know. How often are we going to do this? About every other week or so? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're shooting for about twice a month.
Okay.
At the minimum, but I'm with you. If the more Duane time I get, I know every time I talk to you and I get off the phone, I think now I have more work to do.
Same. I'd say you always inspire me, and I'm like, gosh, I have to get up earlier each day. That I talk to you, and I'm like, okay, now I have to get up early because I have to do the stuff that Cole kind of inspired me to do. This is going to be fantastic. So we're going to wrap up with a website. So it's going to be, of course, the California Math Council website, which is cmc-math.org. And that's where people can get access to the webinar list. That's where you can register to go to the webinar. Did we talk about how much it costs?
I don't know that we mentioned that. But
okay, how much does the webinar cost?
It's free.
It's free. And of course, we're going to be recording it and making that available. But we want everybody to actually be there in the moment because it's just more fun. So cmc-math.org, that's where you get access to all the information about the webinar and the register for the webinar. It's where you're going to get access to all the information about the podcast, information for the symposium that we're doing. So cmc-math.org. Hey, anything else for the good of the order?
No, I'm just really looking forward to it and hoping to see many of you out there at the Central Symposium this week.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. Cole, thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Duane.
All right, I'll talk to you later.